We're live.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, welcome to another edition of Drunk Cocktails with me, Dolly, and Maryann. Today, we have the top 10 reasons cocktail waitresses hate bartenders. Top 10 or top five?
Top five.
Top reasons.
Top five. We'll say five for
Yeah,
later.
if you can think of more, then we'll add on to it. But these are cocktail waitresses in Las Vegas, in the casinos, on the strip, because we're going off of our experiences. So Maryann and I are both here. Let me try. I don't know what I'm doing here. We are. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay.
Cocktail servers.
Yeah, we're both cocktail servers at New York, New York. We haven't worked since COVID hit, which is March, but
March 5th last year.
March 15th, right? Yeah, March 15th last year. But we have tons of years of experience, too many years of
Too many,
experience. Yeah.
honestly.
So here we go. So number one reason is they don't know how to make drinks.
And
So
they
really don't. So if you're a bartender that does know how to make drinks, settle down. It's not about you. We're talking about bartenders who don't know how to make drinks. And if you are a bartender that does know how to make drinks, this is probably annoying to you also when you work with a bartender that does not know how to make drinks. So these are the ones we're talking about. And next week, we're going to do the top 10 reasons why bartenders hate cocktail waitresses. So everybody just calm down. You'll get your chance. Okay. And these are bartenders that, so a lot of times, we as cocktail waitresses, if we know we have to work with a certain bartender, we're like, oh God, right? Sometimes like if it's an extra board bartender, we're like, oh shit, somebody's working this bar. Or like you and I are extra board cocktail waitresses, so our shifts differ every day. So then we know what bars we're working at, even if it's a full-time bartender.
we pick around it.
Right. When we do, and I think the opposite way goes. Sometimes if we know we have to work with a certain bartender, we'll either call off,
Call out. I've done it before.
yeah, or take an EO, which is an early out, and or we just we work out of a different bar, even though it might be our station might be all the way across the casino. We'll work out of a different bar.
Well,
And
I literally worked with a bartender one time, and this was back when Mary was there,
oh,
John,
yeah,
and and she didn't believe me when I said, even though he's a union bartender, supposedly went through the training, the school, everything, he does not know how to make a drink. I had her stand in the bar while he was there, didn't know how to make a Cosmo, didn't know how to make a Long Island. I said, literally, the Long Island button is right there. It's not like you actually have to mix the four liquors and the sour and Coke. I had her stand there, and she was like baffed at like that he really didn't know how to make any drinks.
well, and that's the thing is when you work in a casino, you actually, as a bartender, you really don't even have to be a real bartender because a lot of the drinks are pre-made. We call them guns, but they're on the button. So we usually have a well gun and a call gun. So the well gun usually has like just vodka, tequila, whatever, and the call would have say like, Absolute or
Jack Daniels,
Daniels,
crap.
right? But also on some of the guns, drinks will be pre-made. So like if you want a margarita, there's also like at our place anyway, there's a button you press. I think is it two and then
I
vodka.
think it's four in vodka or something, or two vodka.
So there's like a code so where you don't have to like worry about, having the right amount of, tequila to triple sec or whatever. And LIT would be Long Island. And I'm sure it differs at every casino. But the point is, it's not like working at a local bar where you have to make drinks, from scratch. You take the bottle and you're literally going like this. It's a lot of it is just a matter of knowing the buttons. So if you don't know how to make a Long Island at our place, literally it says LIT, you're a fucktard.
Well, and also too, I don't know if you've had this experience, but I'm gonna say like when tourists come in and they go to a front bar and you ask for a certain drink like a rum punch, they just make up what they put in there.
Right. And a lot of times if it is like a Mai Tai, rum punch, rum
Yeah.
runner, we don't have banana liqueur. So because we're classy like that. So
Yes.
All those are just going to be rum punch, and punch would be, cranberry, pineapple, orange juice. Basically, that's it. So whatever fancy drink you think you're getting, fruity drink, it's all going to be the same.
You're
Um,
not really.
and a lot of times, what I also hate are like bartenders who don't know how to make drinks and they think they do, or they assume that you don't as a cocktail waitress, which a lot of times cocktail waitresses don't know how to make drinks. But it's unfortunate for
Most of us do, though.
most of us do, right? So it's unfortunate when a bartender that doesn't know how to make a drink runs into a waitress that does, and they try to fake them out. I mean, you can fake me out if you don't know if it's vodka or gin, because obviously they're both clear liquids, and I don't know which button you're pushing. But there are certain drinks that you can't fake. And so
Oh,
like some people don't know how to make Cape Cod, which is literally just vodka cranberry
oh,
lime. That's what a Cape Cod is. But if it's I've had a bartender didn't know what a Cape Cod was, and they just put vodka, cranberry, and orange juice. They tried to fake me out
a
with
Madras. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so that's like the number one thing when you have a bartender that doesn't know how to do their job, because literally our money depends on, it goes down. If we can get our drinks out faster, we can make more money, we can come back in, blah, blah, blah. But also recently we've had the smart tender machines,
Yes.
which now we're making our own drinks. So shortly before COVID hit, Maryann and I did have to learn how to use a smart tender machine, which makes us be our own bartender. So now it kind of put the stress off of that a little bit, because now you don't have to work with certain bartenders. And there was a big thing, when it first started, we went to the union, blah, blah, long story, but we tried to fight it because we didn't want our bartenders to lose their jobs, which they did. But at the end of this journey, I think a lot of bartenders were also relieved, because a lot of bartenders don't want to work with girls,
No,
and
they
I
don't.
think they were, secretly relieved they didn't have to work a service bar, which is obviously
I
where
think
we get our drink.
yeah. Some of them, yeah, but I'm sure that the ones that got like the shitty shift after being, bumped down and stuff,
Right.
like the daiquiri bar or something like that, or
Well,
big.
so our casino is union, and the culinary union is a big thing here in Las Vegas. And so when the bartenders lost their shifts, it all went by seniority, and depending on where they fell in seniority, they would quote bump a lower seniority bartender, and then they would take their shifts, and it went on down the line. So at the end of the bump, let's say there are 5 service bartender shifts. At the end of the bump, 5 bartenders would be out of a job, and they would now be on the extra board. And if they don't get called in, obviously they don't get work. So it ended up sucking, as far as losing jobs. I mean, not
Yeah.
as has now since COVID, obviously. So, and
Well, the whole thing was automation too, because now all the casinos that are opening, like Circa is opened with Smart Tender, and now the World Resort place is opening up with Smart Tender. So that's less jobs. So the whole thing was also had to do with automation and it taking away jobs from bartenders.
right. And so, yeah, it looks like, it was at first we're like, how could automation take over, a service industry? But it has. I mean, so, I mean, we might as well get used to it. And so that's why I think, especially with this COVID thing, even going back, I don't think, I think we're all going to have to realize we need to do something else. So maybe the bartenders who don't know how to make drinks, maybe it's not going to be so bad, because they're not going to have
go on
jobs.
to playing in a band.
So that brings us to number 2, why cocktail waitresses hate bartenders. Some of them they can be drink Nazis.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And what I mean by that is some bartenders, and Maryann and I have thought of somebody in particular who lost their job, by the way, as a bartender. But some bartenders will try to intimidate a cocktail waitress and say a cocktail waitress asks for a double of whatever, or they want, so for a long time, we weren't allowed to serve Red Bull on the floor. but we had it in the bar for special customers and asked for a Red Bull. And the bartender would be like, well, who is that for? Do you have a comp? And, and so they tried to run the bar as if, they're the boss when, if you had a job at all, there's things that fly under the radar, things that, you do that. Yeah, I guess they're against the rules, but at the end of the day, you're not allowed to serve doubles. But if that customer complains that is a chintzy shot and they want to talk to a manager, what does that manager do?
Goes and gives them the drink.
Correct.
Every single time. And they'll take them 2 drinks too. I've seen managers take them 2.
Yeah. Bring them a double, bring them 2 Coronas, bring them 2 whatever, because as much as managers say they have your backs, they really don't, because they're watching out for their jobs. And if they don't satisfy the customer might want to go above them. And the last thing a manager wants is for their boss to hear that they can't control their shift.
Yep. So
if it makes you, the waitress or bartender, look like an asshole, the beverage manager just doesn't care.
They don't care.
Right.
They really.
Yeah. So a lot of bartenders are drink Nazis when, if you've ever been to Vegas and had a drink in the slot area, one shot, if you were to order like just a shot of Hennessy or whatever, it's literally like this.
Oh, it's a chin shot.
And it's pre-measured out of the same gun that we're talking about. So we have no control over that. So I always just do doubles if it's a shot for everybody, because even a double is going to look like pretty much like a one shot, So
especially now that everyone's been pouring their own drinks at home.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm the same way. To me, if I order a shot and it doesn't look like this, which, hey, here goes.
Oh, here we go. Cheers.
Oh, these are to the drink Nazis. All right. The third reason cocktail waitresses hate bartenders, they're greedy.
Absolutely. Some of them to the point that it's gross.
So again, we're not talking about the bartenders who, are phenomenal, which we have, just like there's waitresses and employees in general, they're phenomenal bartenders.
Oh, yeah.
They're quick with their drinks. They know the guns. They know the drinks. If you want beers, they remember all 16 of your beers. You don't have to keep calling them. If you run out of a Chardonnay, and I'm thinking,
they go running to get it. Go running to get it. Yes, we have absolutely amazing bartenders, and then there's
and since this is a compliment, I'm just going to call him out. Jason Henry. He used to be our service bartender. He's one of the very few that I would say is a phenomenal bartender. He was a service bartender, and when we knew we were working with him, not only would he do this, and in between, he'd be stocking the beers. He'd be
he was the best.
So, and that's the difference between like a phenomenal employee. Whatever job he goes into, that shows you he's going to be a great employee. Not
absolutely.
Job, but at any job. So we are not talking about bartenders like that. We're talking about bartenders that are either just average or shitty, and they will stand at the end of their shift, or if they're breaking whatever, with their hands out. I mean, they literally will stand there and wait with their hands out. And I get it. They're there to make money. We're here to make money. So I was a waitress that never made a bartender wait. If it was 15 till 10 till, I would tip them. However, there have been times where I've missed a bartender, either they left early or I was out on the floor talking, whatever, but I would find out where they were at their next shift, or I would text them, hey, I owe you this much. I'll see you tomorrow. I was one of those waitresses, those shitty waitresses that we'll cover next week, that if a bartender left or we missed them, we just treated as if we were a shitty customer and just didn't tip them ever again. So, right. But we're talking about the bartenders that have to wait for their tip. And I'm telling you, if you're a great bartender, you'll never have to wait for your tip, except for those few shitty waiters.
Except for those I was going to say, because it goes both ways. I can understand their frustration, having to wait. You want to go home. And then especially if it's for that person that tips $20 no matter what. whether they make $100 or $1,000, you know?
And again, we're talking, and those are the waitresses that are like the bartenders are shitty. Those are the shitty waitresses.
Yeah.
And almost like anything else in any job, the people who are the worst complain the most.
Yep.
Just like a customer. I think so that goes to your character in general, like probably any job you're going to be like that. You know, you think you deserve the most and you think you're entitled to the most, which I think is your perception that you're so good that you're entitled to whatever it is you're never enough. So, so now again, so number 4 reason why we hate bartenders, they're lazy.
Yeah.
We're talking about the bartenders who even in the downtime, they'll just sit there or they'll be on their phone or whatever when.
Or reading.
I'm sorry?
Or reading.
Or reading. All right, come on, let's not get too specific. So they'll be eating their sandwich or whatever. And, you know, which is fine. I mean, there's always, you know, we've all been there. We probably,
yes,
I'm not gonna say all, but 99% of us have actually done all these things that we're saying, but we're talking about the ones that, you know, where, you know, they're not going to do anything besides pick up the gun and pour your drinks. Yep. And then if they're out of Heineken, they're just gonna be like, we're out at that bar, but they could actually go get more, you know, or maybe
they could go get it in the cooler in the back. I mean, I could look in there and I could see the case.
Right. Or they're, the cherries are looking kind of shitty, you know, and oh, that's the bar back's job. Oh yeah, I'll let the bar back know when he comes back from his break to cut, you know, to fill the cherries.
Because I've literally seen girls cut limes and do the garnishes because the bartender is just not.
And you know what, in a union job, all right, so I get it. Everybody has their job, and if you do someone else's job, so technically you can file a grievance on somebody if they do your job, because the whole point, the whole reason of a culinary union or any union at the heart of it, before it became corrupt like our culinary union is, the whole point is, number one thing is to save your job. So if somebody's doing your job, then your job is no longer needed. So no one is really allowed to do your job. But here's the thing, you're a team. So if the barbacks have more than one bar, and the same thing, they're barbacks or whatever, but you know, when it's busy, when everyone's doing their thing, but no one can just everyone just kind of needs a little help in whatever. If I'm not busy, I'm gonna, you know, go to the cooler and get more bottled waters, you know. I'm going to wipe down this, you know, this coffee spill. I'm going to do whatever that are not really my job. They're outside of my job duties. But at the end of the day, it's all our jobs if we have time. You know, our number one job, our number one job, serve drinks. You know, the bartender's number one job, pour drinks. But if there's time, let's just help each other out a little bit. And some bartenders, they'll just sit there and they have all the time in the world, and they just, and these are sometimes bartenders that rose from, you know, bar porter to bar back. Whatever. Now they feel like, I did that when I was a bar back. Why should I do it now? I'm a bartender. I mean, that's just the worst attitude.
And I also feel like, you know, the bar backs, they do get a lot put on them to run around, get the beers, garnish this, and they have more than one bar. So I don't mind helping them out, but how shitty of the bartender, of the crappy bartender, not a good bartender that's being lazy and can't contribute anything, you know?
And that's the thing with the casinos. You know, we work for New York, which is an MGM corporation. And anytime you work for a corporation, it's always about the money. So you can save money any way they can, they will, which the number one way they can save money is overhead. So if someone calls in sick, if they can get away with not covering that shift, they will. So a lot of bar backs, you know, now they end up having to do one extra bar, or maybe it's become that way where they're like, we're not going to even cover that shift. And now permanently they have more bars than really they probably should.
Well, because, you know, management has lied about that. Oh, we tried to get someone in to cover it. No, you didn't.
Right. Yeah, and that is going to be another show in itself. But but the point is, so and again, we're not talking about bar backs who are lazy, because we've had those too, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
out of
Lot of good ones. We're talking like we've worked with a lot of amazing bartenders, bar packs, cocktail servers. Only a few that are like,
right, and these are the reasons why we hate those bartenders. So
yes,
the ones who, these are the bartenders that have a phenomenal bar back, and yet they still won't help out, knowing that that bar back is doing the best he can, but maybe just this, one moment that bar back can't get to whatever it is that needs to be done.
yep.
And so that goes into our fifth reason. Some bartenders are really fucking cheap. So
Oh
so
God.
industry, obviously, and the hierarchy kind of goes like, we as waitresses, we get tip from the customers, so we tip 20% or more to our bartenders, and the
Yep,
bartenders are supposed to tip 20% of that to the bar backs. The bar
yep.
back tip 20% of that to the
Bar
bar.
porter.
Okay, so obviously this is all on the honor system. You can't
Yep.
really, and well, we're gonna say no one stands there and watched you, but we have one bartender, again, to the greedy one,
Oh, God.
stand there and actually watch the waitress count out her money to make sure it was 20% at minimum that he was getting. So,
But he was tipping, this particular one was not tipping out 20% to his.
so again, it always seems like the greediest, the shittiest, the people with the worst attitude are the ones that are pieces of shit. So
Yeah.
those are the ones we're talking about. And surprisingly, there are some that I've heard over, the grapevine, where I've heard they're cheap tippers to bar backs. And, I'm not one to usually believe rumors, but sometimes when you hear the same thing over and over again about the
Yeah.
same people from different sources, and then when you've actually seen it in action, it's kind of disappointing.
Well, and I've actually gone out, all of us used to go out all the time, like whether to be local bars or on the strip and stuff. I've actually witnessed a couple of bartenders, like what they tip other bartenders, and I'm just like shocked. I'm just like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, that's a bonus. So if you are a bartender or a cocktail waitress or a waitress who works in the tipping industry, and you want to be a cheap tipper or don't tip, don't tell me as I'm serving you your drink that, oh, you work at such and such a place, and then you either stiff me or
Or
you
give a dollar.
drinks or something. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So the same thing, yeah. If when we do go out as a group, obviously we're all a bunch of tipped employees, and usually to a local bar or something. In general, that whoever's serving us is going to win,
Oh
because
yeah. Sure.
whatever we do, however much we drink, however much we gamble or don't gamble, that person is going to be tipped over probably 50%, just because money's being thrown around. We know how, but there seems to always be someone in the group who is part of the tipping industry who just rides the wave, and because it's a group, they feel like they're not going to be noticed.
Or ousted or anything.
Right. So
But I've seen it before, and it just like it never ceases to amaze me.
that's probably my number one thing. I don't understand how you can work for tips for a living. And I'm not talking about even, maybe people who deliver, your washer and dryer, you might tip them, but they're not really a tipped job per se.
Correct.
But about you're a cocktail waitress, you're a waiter, you're a waitress, you're a bartender, you're a valet, you're a bell desk person, like you're a dealer, somebody who actually, that's your job as a living, where, yeah, you get paid a salary, but most of your income is tips. And then you turn around and you bitch about shitty, tippers, and then you turn around and you're that shitty tipper. Like, I just don't get that. That's probably the
And I
worst.
think a lot of people, what most people don't know is that we do mainly live off of our tips.
Correct.
Because if you saw my check for 2 weeks, I mean, nobody could live off of that.
But that's why people stay in in a tipping job, the ones who
Yes.
give off tips. I think, especially here in Vegas, and I don't know, maybe New York or somewhere, but especially in a casino, and especially where drinks are complimentary. So the customer doesn't actually have to say, oh, I've spent this much for drinks, plus I got a tip on top of that,
Yeah.
where really money should just be flowing. I feel like it just doesn't make any sense, that you would do that to somebody else.
It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm just like, but it never ceases to amaze when I see it happening.
But like I said, I think that probably goes down to the character of you as a person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So anyway, so those are our top 5 reasons why cocktail waitresses hate bartenders. And again, if anyone's offended by this, we don't really care. But again, you shouldn't be offended. You shouldn't be offended if this doesn't apply to you, because no doubt someone's going to be like, well, I don't, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you don't, then this list doesn't apply to you.
Yeah,
And
it's only the shitty bartender that we're talking about that's going to get offended.
right. And but I feel like if you're a shitty bartender, if you fall into this list, you won't recognize yourself, because I feel like that's, yeah.
Really?
I don't know. Because again, I feel like people who feel that way are the ones who feel like they're better than they are. I mean, everyone has that kind of perception of themselves. They have to, otherwise everybody kill themselves, right?
So you're saying like they don't really realize or know that they're like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can believe that, because I've known girls, cocktail servers, when I've told them, like, you're a downer or you're negative or stuff, they're like, what are you talking about?
Right, because perception is reality, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't really, you feel like you're putting out a certain vibe, and you may or may not be, but the point is your perception is, whatever it is you feel to be your truth. And I feel like a lot of bartenders who complain about girls, who bitch about, everything, I feel like it's a why me thing, when maybe the common denominator is you, and
Right.
you always change your I mean, I think the truth, the truth speaks for itself. When, if a girl wants to work with you, I think that speaks more volume than someone who to your face might be like, oh yeah, you're a great bartender. Same with a waitress. A bartender might be like, blah, 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 because not, most people don't want to be a dick to your face, and they'll say it behind your back, but not to but I think the truth is in, do they actually want to work with you?
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to say that you and I are like awesome waitresses, but I know
Bartenders are always happy to see us.
I feel like that's the way. And so that's another tip. If you are a shitty waitress, meaning you don't know how to call your drinks, you're a pain in the ass to work with, all the things that we kind of listed as bartenders, a lot can be made up for if you're an extra good tipper. Money always.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but sometimes no amount of money is going to make up for it. But in general, if you feel like and sometimes, the truth can be, slap you in the face and you're like, I'm kind of being shitty today, or whatever, I'm being a pain in the ass. If you are a good tipper, even when you go out to eat, if you're somebody,
oh yeah,
oh, can I have more ketchup, or, this tastes a little blood, which you should never do that. But
no, ever.
Ever. I think a good tip will make up for a lot of mistakes.
Well, I know when I go out with a particular person, I pre-tip the waiter because she's a pain in the ass. Right. I said, I'm sorry, but she's a really good tipper. Just please don't spit in our.
And I actually pull that person, the waiter or waitress, aside. I'll be like, just spit in her food.
You're a dick.
Because and that's
her food. Don't fuck with mine, because here's
sometimes, and it's true, like sometimes you're like, why are you acting like the customer that you hate? you know,
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I hate somebody who's just like, well, can I do this? And can you do this? And it's just a pain. Like, I would never go to Outback and be like, well, I know you're, whatever comes, this, but like, say the onion loaf, can you make it not as salty? Well, it fucking comes that way. They can't separate the salt from the rest of the thing. I'm not going to be that person. My sister is that person.
Oh God. So you have to pull the waiter aside and give him $20.
She'll be like, oh, I want this salad, but can you put the sauce on the side? And it'll be the kind of salad where it's mixed in there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
can you put no onions and no, like, everything's like a freaking premix. And she doesn't realize like how much of a pain she is. And I'll tell her, she'll be like, oh no, he's saying fine. Yeah, he's not going to tell you I'm going to spit in your fucking drink or your food, in the kitchen. He's going to be like, oh yeah, of course we can do that. I mean, that's a good waiter, but
Well, no, that's why I pre-tip. I don't think I'm like picky, like, oh, can I substitute this and this is it? But I'm a sauce person, so I do like my sauces.
yeah, but that's the thing. If you know you're going to be in pain in the ass,
Oh yeah.
and don't do the whole like, I'm going to tip you really good, like,
No, 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 no. We don't do
right. But anyway, so the whole point is, these are the top 5 reasons why we hate bartenders. And again, we're talking about shitty bartenders. And if you guys have any suggestions or any feedback to that, or anything you want to add to the list that we already made for next week, which is top reasons why bartenders hate cocktail waitresses.
cocktail servers.
Maybe one of them is because they make YouTube videos about how much they hate us. And that's legit. So
I would love to see comments from bartenders down there.
And they may not comment on the YouTube page itself, but
they're gonna,
they're going to text me, right? And that's fine.
But
yeah.
no, but next week we're gonna have the reasons why bartenders hate cocktail servers. So it's even. It's
right.
even. It really is.
It's even, Steven, and we've heard everything, and we're
you can't phase us after being 20 years on the strip.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of girls who transition from, say, front desk to, a lot of people say, oh, they look at a cocktail waitress and they're like, oh, I could do that, walk in heels and
then they're crying.
Right, and be giggly, and then go, here you go, and then get tipped for, oh, that job is easy, and
Yep.
it's no fail. Anytime we get a new girl who transfers in from another job within the casino, because a lot of girls just want to be cocktail waitresses. They think it's a glamour. It is, but they also don't realize the physical thing that comes with it. Wearing heels and being on your feet 8 hours.
You're walking 7 hours, loading trays, carrying heavy trays. They cry like little kids
when they switch. And dealing with shitty customers. But also like the I don't want to say emotional, but like the reality of a customer. If a customer just was like, hey, can I get a Budweiser? Sure. And then here you go. I could do that, till the cows come home. I mean, no break in between. But absolutely, in reality, that's not how it goes. There's going to be people that bitch and complain or want to know your wine selection or whatever it is that takes. There's a lot of other things involved, just like it is with any other job. I'm sure, you think, how hard is it to be a pilot? You just fly the plane and if there's a turbulence, you're like, put on your seatbelt. Sure, there's like a lot.
Believe me. Yeah. Especially switching over to something new. It's
right.
Overwhelming in the beginning.
You don't really have a lot of, I want to say respect for, because any kind of service job, I think people don't generally quote respect that job, because nobody ever, hey, I want to grow up to be a cocktail waitress.
No.
People, they want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever, the top 3 are. But they don't realize that, especially in Vegas, this is one of the few jobs that a waitress doesn't want to move up. Like a lot of jobs, you go into it, you're a customer service rep, then you want to be a supervisor, then you want to be assistant manager, and then, and And every 6 months or so, you want to try to go, okay, how am I going to go to my boss and ask for a raise? Like, this is not that kind of a job. This is a
No.
job where you want to stay as a bartender. You want to stay as a cocktail waitress. You want to stay as a dealer because you're
Well, they say here in Vegas, as far as like cocktails and bartenders, it's the golden handcuffs.
it totally is.
It
And
really is.
it's one of the best kept secrets.
Yep.
I think especially, I think now a lot of people are realizing it, but back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, people didn't really realize. My dad, for a long time, he didn't realize what a great job it was. He's somebody, he was a college professor for years. His wife, which is my stepmom, was a college professor, and they came to visit, I want to say years ago. And my dad actually said to me, they were on their way, they were taking a cab,
Mhm.
and they were telling the cab driver, they're visiting me, I'm a cocktail waitress. And the cab driver was telling them, oh, she must make a lot of money, blah, blah. And so he's relaying this story to me. And so I could tell by his voice, he had like I won't say respect for me, but like
Mhm.
didn't get it until like somebody
Yeah.
told him that, hey, you know what? In Vegas, that's a great freaking job, So
Which is why there's people like you and I that don't want to go back, but there's so many girls that are just like literally dying to go back to that job.
and it is that kind of thing where it's the golden handcuffs, it's like you kind of go and go, oh, I'm 22, I'm going to quit when I'm 30, which is something that I've said.
Which is what I said.
Right.
Which is what
Everybody says that. Right.
Mhm.
And here I am almost 53. And then like if we ever get back to 100% or whatever, I would die to have my job back. And if I quit, who would hire me? Because now it's known to be such a great job that there's 21, 22-year-olds coming up.
there's people lined out the door for that job for sure.
So, so the point is, this is the kind of job that you stay in and you can, raise your family.
Yep.
Your significant other can actually be a stay-at-home mom or dad, whichever it
Yep.
is. And
Yep.
you can buy a house, you can retire,
Yep.
if you're smart with your money. So it's not, as our immediate boss would be the assistant beverage manager, and then it goes up. But nobody wants to quit cocktails and be an assistant beverage manager because literally you'd be taking a pay cut, like way pay cut, unless is on the prize to be CEO or something, and
Yeah.
you think you have the juice or the ability to move up fast. If you were to quit this lowly, serving job to be
Mhm.
in management, you'd be doing yourself a big disservice. So,
well, like I'm taking a huge pay cut, to do what I want to do right now.
right.
But in the end, like for me, I don't want to go. You already know. I don't want to go back to cocktails. But now, having been off the strip for a while, that's why like everyone's very different when it comes to it. Like people want to go back. They want the easy. It's not. It's easy money, but it's not easy money.
Right. It's you become used to, no matter how much money you make, they say you become used to the lifestyle, and that is so true.
Yes.
So I don't want to sound like a snob or somebody
No.
don't have any room to choose, but even if I were to get a job for say $25 an hour, obviously I have to pay taxes on that. To me, it's not good enough for me to trade, and because that is a phenomenal pay, really, especially a starting out job, $50 an hour. Just think, if you were to make $25 an hour in tips, wouldn't you be like, this is kind of a shitty day? And we're just talking in tips, right? You'd be like, so it'd really be to be comparable for you to even consider, like, I would quit cocktailing to do it $50 an hour, maybe, right? But think about that. Like, that's just your base pay, no tips on top of that. That'd still be not even close to what you're used to making, right?
It just depends on the day, because because you and I work days,
it is.
so sometimes if you walked with $100,
And plus you got to tip out your bartender, with that. And it's just, you're so used to having cash, like for a long time.
Oh my God, that was the worst
You're
part.
like, I got to go to the ATM and get cash. It's just like, what? Because you always had cash on you. It was just like, and now I'm just like everybody else. I got to go to the bank or whatever. And so it's just a whole different lifestyle. So
It is a really different lifestyle. And that was like the biggest, not like shock, but that was the biggest adjustment for
right.
me, was like not having the cash on hand at all times. And it's like, oh, I'm using my card for everything, or just like that was a huge adjustment. Yes, for sure.
Okay, so your kitty's in the back and
The putty hat.
goody tat. All right, so we're going to end it here. And so those are the top 5 reasons why Vegas cocktail waitresses hate Vegas bartenders, the shitty ones. And next week, we're going to do top 10 reasons why Vegas bartenders hate Vegas cocktail waitresses. So see you next time, guys.